Fabian, can you print link on community meeting document?
Yes, sure. So welcome to the Kubernetes community meeting. Today is September 12th, 2018, and I'm sharing the link to the agenda on the chat again. Covering for Stu, who is affected by some small thunderstorm on the east coast of the US. Hope everything goes well. So we have the minutes today, and we start away with CI instability and stability, work done by Petter.
Okay, so I've been working to stabilize our CI. So far, so good. I've got one PR prepared for merging, which basically what it basically does, it adds up a return at the start of expectors in a test. Because that was the part when it was timing out, because without the return, it doesn't work. Second, I'm now working on a second PR, which resets the connections between tests, because it seems that the KubeVirt client just cannot handle so many connections open up bar test, which is expectable, but not something I would like to see at this phase. So I will write another test, especially to see how our KubeVirt client performs. But this is a separate issue. We now firstly need to stabilize the CI and then solve the issues. So I'm writing down all the issues. The report can be actually followed here. I'm sharing it in the chat. This is my report with my findings. And so far, so good. There's one finding I just figured out just before this meeting, and that's it. That we are DOSing our API. I'm not sure why. I need to figure out how I measure the open connections because of the complexity of our CI. But this will be the next step I definitely need to fix, because this is a situation that can definitely happen in the production. So we need to figure that out. And that's all from me.
Okay, cool. Thank you for taking a look at the CI. Yeah, we want to give it some love. After all, it helps us over time. Cool. And for others who are not involved in fixing it, please give CI issues, if they need a review, some priority, because after all PRs which we have pending benefit from that. Okie dokie. If there are no questions on it, I'll move on. So there were some unclarities around the user guide. We had a website update some time ago, and with that, some part of the user guide were moved to the website, which helped us to have a unified visual experience for people. Now the problem is that if we move that into the website content, we cannot generate really nice documentation stuff for people, like really searchable and with a nice index of that. That is all not so good possible, and we as red artists, we would like to reuse that documentation for us as well, which on the other hand means that we also want to contribute it in order to make it really enterprise ready. In order to support that, we are actually working to continue to focus the user guide documentation in the user guide and improve the shape of it in order to make it better consumable, and then in the second step see that we align it with the website again. So the gist is, please provide your user guide updates to the user guide and not to the website repository.
Wait, so Fabian, this is Scott. Just to be clear there, you're asking folks to do updates in 2 places right now for this until it gets ironed out, or?
No, I wouldn't go that far. I would say please update the user guide, because I really hope to fix that gap in the next week or so it's not worth of finding PRs on both repositories.
Okay, if we need to pull in Adam to help out with that from a UX side on the website, let us know and we can dig in.
Yeah, definitely. The hottest item I'm working on currently is we would like to move to AsciiDoc to better be able to apply theming. I'm currently just adding that boilerplate to be able to generate that. So once that is done, then I'll reach out to get some support on aligning all of that stuff.
Okay.
But nobody can help me at the moment with that. Or actually, we might want to, let's take that offline. Maybe you can help me.
Sure thing.
Okay. Currently, how to line. Cool. Then something from my side, I just wanted to give an update on the ton bug, which we had, which caused some annoyances. Let me see, ton devices. It was this one. So there was a bug which prevented KubeVirt from a recent KubeVirt, so KubeVirt 07, from running on Minishift or OpenShift, for example, Minishift or OC cluster up. The problem, I mean, KubeVirt 07 is using device plugins for injecting def KVM and ton devices into a pod because we wanted to get rid of privileged operations. And the problem is that OC cluster up and Minishift have a bug related to device plugins, and that prevented to run KubeVirt 07 or later on OC cluster up or Minishift. There's now a workaround, which is very complicated. I hope that actually a fix to that will land in OpenShift Origin 3.11, or might even get backported to OpenShift Origin 3.10. I'll add that to the minutes as well. So it's a little bit annoying at the moment, but it's not something very broken. It's just that it's an annoying bug. Okay. Actually, side note on that, let me just add that when I'm done from my side. Or Travis automation. I actually started one of the things we actually what highlighted that is actually that we had our demo, which was tested for Minikube but not tested for Minishift. I actually spent some time to add Travis automation, or to use Travis to test a release of KubeVirt on now more platforms. So I have some pending code which is testing KubeVirt on Minikube, Minishift, and OC cluster up. And actually, I'm still stabilizing that, but that would give us an easy way to test the demo against multiple platforms and to get that feedback on all of them. I hope that this helps us to make that whole demo more stable and detect these bugs more early, because this bug, the scope of that bug was discovered quite late. Okay, that's it from my side. Then I think the next item is an update on CPU pinning. Because it's such an interesting topic, I added that to the agenda. Vladik, do you have a chance? Yeah. Hey.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is it got merged today, and in general, what it does is it's basically provides dedicated physical CPUs and then pins the virtual CPUs of the guest to those physical ones. In order to get it enabled, users will have to manually somehow enable the CPU manager, the Kubernetes CPU manager on the nodes. And then there is a mechanism that that allows Virt Handler to automatically detect if CPU manager is running on the node. But this is behind the gate. I'm currently working on the documentation to show how all of this can be enabled. But in general, if the gate is shut off and the automatic detection is turned off, and users will just have to add a label to every node that supports the CPU manager, and then the VM will get scheduled on only on those nodes. If nothing is labeled, then virtual machines that require the dedicated CPUs will not get scheduled. So hopefully I'll update documentation today.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you for that summary, and yeah, looking forward to the user guide update there. Actually, one interesting bit will be to really see, and I hope we have some community members who will provide some feedback, if that really is a performance enhancement. I really wonder about the performance impact here. I would expect it, but let's see what the outcome will be. Thanks. Any questions on that matter?
Just curious, while you have CPU pinning, does that also dedicate the CPU only for that? So does it lock down the CPU?
Yes. Yes, these are dedicated CPU, dedicated physical CPUs.
So no oversubscribing once you get to that point.
No, and this is one of the requirements of how Kubernetes is providing dedicated CPUs. It has to be a guaranteed resource.
Radek, I think that might be, in case we get to the memory overcommit world, for example, I'm not entirely sure how we'll mix and match those two, because if I understand it correctly, it's actually based on the memory. Or, well, all the resources, basically the minimums have to match the maximums, right? And then it automatically gets assigned to the guaranteed class. So...
Yep, you have to express both CPU and memory, and both of them has to be not overcommitted.
I see. So do we actually have support for the ref kind of CPU pinning?
I think.
I'm not sure what ref does.
Yeah, I think
that's the overcommitted one, basically.
Sorry, I think a note here is there were conflicts about what policy to use. So what Vladek did, and like, please correct me if I'm wrong, is to say we now have the infrastructure to implement different policies because there are so many different ways of how to do it. We have settled with some policy, and maybe you can shed a light on that, Vladek, which default policy is used. But the idea is to support different policies because there are so many different ways of doing it.
Yeah, right now we started with the with the first dedicated resources. This is the first step. There are so many different ways how to pin, and in the future we'll have to consider NUMA, and we'll have to make choices of how do we make the CPU pinning. Do we want to pack all the cores on the same socket, or do we want to spread it out, or do we want to do other things? But in general, this is just the first step.
Okay, cool. Then thank you very much for the update, and we watch it. It looked like quite promising, the last comment. Seems that the rebase was good, and everything is good to merge. Cool. Right, and then we have a crazy topic like live migration. David.
Hey. All right, so I'm working on reintroducing some very basic live migration into KubeVirt. And the focus here is I just want to lay a foundation for live migration that we can iterate on. So it's a pretty limited scope for what I'm looking at. I want to be able to perform a tunneled live migration where essentially the control plane of libvirt and QEMU doesn't have network access. So we're going to try to tunnel through a Unix socket and then have this proxy that tunnels through another Unix socket on the target end and perform live migration doing that. So I'm focusing on the mechanics of how to do that, and then how to represent the migration in our API. So, are we going to introduce a new migration API object that tracks the migration, and what are all the steps involved with that? So I consider that as kind of our foundation that lets us perform a very basic form of migration, but it comes with a lot of limitations. So, we're not going to have things like network IP failover with this right out of the gates. There's going to be some issues with storage that we have to overcome with needing multi-write access. And there's going to be lots of things that we just identify in actually writing this initial migration. So it's not going to be done for a long time. This is just trying to identify the first steps of how we reintroduce it and then give us a foundation to iterate on in the future.
I'm a little disappointed. to not have exclusive write access and that kind of stuff, and all the storage stuff.
It's so complex. It's so difficult to get everything in one shot. This is going to be something we talk about for a long time.
Yeah, actually, let's see if Andrew is joining, who's working on fencing, as far as I know. But yes, I think the approach is good. Let's get the basics into place, and then let's see how we can iterate. Cool, thank you very much. Looking forward to see any PR on that. Then I think let's continue with the Multus update, and I would ask David, could you please update the minutes because I couldn't follow.
Okay, so just a quick update on Multus. The PR that enables Multus support in KubeVirt was merged last week, so it's ready to be used, and basically it just allows you to add secondary network interfaces created by CNI plugins to KubeVirt. And I opened a PR today on user guide to show how do you actually use it, and that's it.
So what would Multus allow me to do? Does it actually have any benefit to KubeVirt?
Well, it allows you to add multiple network interfaces to your VMI, and whatever CNI plugin you have, be it a bridge or OVS funnel, whatever, you can reference it and just get the interface to whatever network.
So are you telling me that this means I could get a layer 2 interface into my VM to do, for example, PXE routing?
Yes, or you can unblock the live migration networking.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. So thank you. Good to see that such a small feature is enabling us. By the way, does that also mean... just a second, please. Does it also mean that it supports Genie right away, or is that something different?
No. Yuval opened the PR to enable Genie because the implementation is pretty much the same, but it's not merged. And if we want to get it merged, we need to do some refactoring because it shares so much code with the Multus support.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Nice work to everybody who contributed to it. Okay, I think the next item is DevConf in FOSDEM. Scott.
Sure, thanks, Fabian. So earlier this, it's like we have one conference after another here, but earlier this morning I submitted for a booth for DevConf, and as we all know, DevConf is targeted towards both students and developers. It's mainly like an upstream type of conference that Red Hat helps to host. And we'll have, a laptop and a couple of chairs, which means that we'll just need people to work that booth at different hours. I requested it for 3 days. And so we're going to need to come up with some demos for the booth. Anything new that we're working on around the time that DevConf comes around, we'll want to make sure to capture those in some sort of recording, and then come up with a little script so that no matter who's working the booth, they can speak to that. That would be very helpful. The CFP is open right now, so we want to make sure to get some presentations in there if at all possible. It's funny because if you look at the CFP homepage, they've actually, decoupled virtualization from cloud and containers, whereas this team is doing a total combination of those technologies. So I think it'll be interesting. And then for FOSDEM, I haven't requested a booth yet, but I think I will. I think we'll be more likely at FOSDEM to get a booth if we tag along with another team. So we're just kind of talking through that and figuring out, what makes the most sense there. And we'll probably wait until Josh Berkus gets back to move on that, which will be probably next week. And then all of the above for DevConf would apply to FOSDEM as well. And I see that somebody placed a note in the meeting minutes about config management camp. Can someone tell me a little bit about that conference, if you know of it?
That was me, Scott. I added it because it's the following 2 days after FOSDEM. So when it's fairly close by, the target audience is usually the same kind of folks around infrastructure and infrastructure management. So there's a Kubernetes track, and there is configuration management tracks, or Ansible, Puppet, and so, and everything around infrastructure. So I do think if we're looking to users, potentially where we can show demo and do talks and actually meet with users who like open source and do infrastructure management, that's probably a good place. We can sync offline. I'm one of the organizers for the event, so we can definitely sync offline.
Perfect. Thanks, Ohad. Will do. And Fabian, I'll add my notes to the meeting minutes as well. That's all I had. Any questions, let me know.
Yeah, cool. Good that we do that so far out. I would encourage anybody who considers to join that to look at the schedule and look at his availability. I, for myself, I'm probably not able to attend this year's FOSDEM DevConf, sadly. Okay, let me see. Is Andrew eventually here? No, we want to invite him probably. So it goes a little bit back to the live migration topic from David. So Andrew, also wearing a red hat, is a little bit working on fencing, because we are worried about the state of persistent data in the context of Kubernetes actually, and also KubeVirt. So Andrew is working on seeing how nodes can be fenced to increase the likelihood to not corrupt your data if a VM is going down, or if a node is getting fenced and the VM is getting relaunched on a different node. I'll actually see that we can invite him to this meeting, so to get some more technical details on that.
He's in Australia.
Yeah, it's difficult. Well, we might ask all of us to move this meeting 10 hours earlier to give him a good time.
I can help with some technical details.
Perfect. Yes, great. Thank you. Actually, I'll hand it over to you.
So in general, the design is that Kubernetes already have some node detector problem repositories that make possible that just set some conditions and events on specific nodes. Depends on some problems on the node, like kernel crash or abort ABRT events. I'm not sure if I pronounced it correctly. So after that we have this information from node detector, we will apply some remediation logic that will try to fence the node, or in the worst case reprovision the node when we talk about the cloud. And for this purpose we want to use machine API that placed under cluster API, also under Kubernetes SIG. And that's pretty much. If someone interested in it, you are welcome to read Andrew's proposal, and I believe I can also provide some additional links on design document. And that's pretty all.
Actually, I have one request. I know there's one issue where a lot of this discussion was actually raised. Maybe you have the link to that one.
I think you're speaking about splitting of storage, some split brain, no?
Yeah, that was something about related to storage and kubelet. Like, I don't recall the exact issue.
To be honest, I'm not sure if it's really related to fencing, because the problem that Kubernetes does not really have some locking mechanism for storage. So, for example, if the node crash and it has some amount of storage, no one will release it. If I understand, I just looked on it fastly on the issue, so maybe I'm wrong, but it's the problem.
Okay. Okay. Cool. That's it for the agenda. We get to the open floor. Does somebody have rather a small or large thing to discuss in addition to that? To what we've discussed? Then I thank everybody for his and her interest, and can continue to speak for a few minutes, or wish you a great day, and see you back in a week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.